Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Black Clover episode 45. And before I get into the review itself, I'm just gonna tell you guys if it looks like I don't, if I don't have I'm not entirely energetic in this review, then I'm so sorry about that. This is just a very weird day, and only now am I getting to this review. But yeah, if I don't sound entirely energetic about the episode, I'm sorry for that. It's just, yeah, it's been a weird day, to be honest with you. One of those off days, I guess you could say. But anyway, as for the episode itself, I'll start off with this clincher. It was a very mixed bag episode of very, honestly, if I was if I was to if I was to describe to you guys exactly how a mixed bag episode would play out, this would be the episode to perfectly describe it, because it had a lot of good points, but yet there were a lot of things that just didn't seem to really do as basically well as. But on the execution side, it didn't play out as well as you think it would, I guess. So yeah. um, so and to start off with that, one thing that really surprised me about this episode is how the first chunk of it felt. Is how the first what really was really surprising to me is how slow the first chunk of this episode felt, because usually for me the first 6-7 minutes of an episode when it comes to Black Clover is what sucks me in. But in this week's episode, it actually took a little longer for me to get invested in the episode. But maybe that's because the beginning of the episode really only had Veto and Asta basically trash talking each other, and it wasn't until the final minutes of the episode that I started actually getting into the particular fight. So yeah, it's honestly, if the episode was basically trying to bore me in the first 6 or 7 minutes of the episode, I'd be lying if I said it didn't succeed. Just I was sitting there looking at them trash talking each other, and was like, do something other than talk to each other, fight it out, do something. Seriously, just if you're gonna. I mean, I guess they were trying to save on animation. I don't know, but yeah, it was weird. And honestly, that's another thing I do got to point out too, is that the art, I think the animation was fine for what it was, but the artwork in this episode was a little iffy, so to speak. It was there's a lot of times it didn't look all that good, so to speak. So yeah. um Although, like I said, things did. It's weird because think because things did kind of pick up a little bit after that. But like I said, because this was a very mixed bag episode, the funny thing about this episode is that overall it was one of the best. It wasn't one of the best episodes pacing wise, which is a little ironic in itself, considering it adapted 3 chapters worth of material. But one pretty much, even though the pacing was bad throughout this entire episode, the one thing that really stood out to me is how it showed just from how relentless the Eye of the Midnight Sun actually are. And even though majority were still beaten down pretty easily in this episode, there was still this sense and this tone of urgency to just how much what was being thrown at Gauche in the episode. In fact, I kind of like how this episode really pushed forth how cunning Gauche can be, even when he needs to think on his feet. This of course was very much a Gauche episode. He was the main focus of the episode, and it again, it's one of the things where it was one of those things where I don't think they really took advantage of the fact that it was even a Gauche episode to begin with. But I think they could have added more in order to make the fight more interesting. But definitely with what we got of Gauche, it was still entertaining, and like I said, it did show development in Gauche, and how cunning he can actually, and despite how much of an impulsive idiot he acts, just like all the members of the Black Bulls, he does have a very cunning and crafty side, and this episode did show just how cunning Gauche can be when he needs to think on his feet. But okay, Gauche. Okay, I like the showcase of how cunning in a situation you can be, but please never, and I mean never again, trick Charmy into thinking a rock is meat ever again. Like seriously, that shit was messed up. Like if you guys seen the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the scene where basically Charmy went all monster on them. There was this shroud of darkness surrounding her, saying like, you motherfuckers, you motherfuckers, you pretty much tricked me." And I'm like, and she just, and it's luckily that Charmy didn't take out all her anger on Gauche, because in that situation he would have been royally fucked. But in this situation, I'm glad she decided to take her anger out on the Eye of the Midnight Sun people. And yeah, that whole shit with Charmy is like sheep golem. Never before have been scared of wool before in my life. But yeah, I'm scared of wool now. So take that for what it is. And of course, in the episode we get the long-awaited reveal of Gray's true form. Which, okay, it's one of those things where, despite being spoiled in the opening and teased a little bit in the last episode, the reveal itself was still just fucking hilarious. And the voice actors they got to play Gray's like true form just added so much to that, and like and just the just the whole like reveal of what Gray's true form is. It's just one of those. It's just one of those moments that's simply laugh out loud hilarious when you think about it for a moment and realize that such a timid woman of 24 years old, mind you, I said woman because it is revealed she's 24 years old, which yeah, she looks a little younger than that, but whatever. But yeah, it's one of those. It's really one of those ones where when you think back in a moment and realize that such a timid woman was actually disguised as such a hulking, I don't know, person. Like it really boggles the mind of you're basically easily embarrassed and you have low self-esteem, yet you transform into this big fat hulking guy. That is the most beautiful contradictions I've ever heard in my life. It really is like, wow, like you're pretty much a very attractive woman, but you have low self esteem about your appearance, so you transform into a big hulking person. Yeah, that, like I said, that is one of the most beautiful contradictions in anime I've ever seen before. So yeah. Um, also just kind of tracking back to Veto for a second, because I want to track back to Veto for a second because even though we ended up getting very little screen time with him, I think it's safe to say that in that last couple minutes of the episode, we still got further proof that the guy is an unstoppable force of nature, and you know that's the case when even Asta, the fucking main character, is barely leaving a scratch on the guy. And as far as Kahono and Noel showing up at the end, I think it's obvious that if Asta can't do anything to this guy, then it's doubtful that Kahono and Noel are going to be able to do much. But But what I am interested in seeing is just how Noel develops her powers out of this confrontation with Prince Veto. Like again, I know she's pretty much not going to be able to even lay a scratch on him, but it should be interesting exactly how she learns to actually start using her magic to attack. Like that's the biggest thing about Noelle right now is that she needs to learn how to attack. So learn attack magic. So I'm interested to see exactly what it is she's going to learn from this encounter. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. That's not even me. Signing off. Later, guys.